Hi, everyone, and welcome to the community call. My name is Ashley Cariaga, and I help with the operations of Casper Labs. On today's call, we'll be talking about Casper for Business and our growth in the Middle East. We are joined in today's call by Meta, Ashok, Cliff, and Saeed, all from Casper Labs. We will have a Q&A at the end of this call, so please drop any questions you may have in the YouTube comments on Discord and Telegram. Thanks for joining, everyone, and I'm passing it off to you, Meta.
Thanks so much, Ashley, for that great introduction. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and kick it off. We've got some exciting topics to cover today. So I want to thank everyone for joining today. Those of you who have joined before, you know who I am. I'm Meta Parlikar, the CTO and one of the co-founders of CasperLabs, the company building the Casper network. Today, I'm pleased to have Ashok, our Director of Professional Services, Cliff Sarkin, our COO, and Saeed Al-Damarki, Head of Business Development for MENA. So today we're going to talk a little bit about enterprise. And then after we discuss enterprise, we'll dive in, as Ashley said, into Dubai, and then we'll round it out with our technical update. So, we've gone on record a lot saying Casper is all about enterprise, right? And so why is that, right? We've built tools in the protocol that support the things that enterprise need in order to govern their on-chain code. And we built this blockchain for builders by builders, right? When we look at a protocol and we think, what are the things we really need in order to build an application or build a business that uses blockchain technology? What are the features that are essential? It became really clear to us that the current protocols in the market were lacking a lot of core things that were needed. And the most important thing is being able to control your on-chain code, your contracts, right? And so today, whenever you build a startup, you think about the product and you have some theories and you have some hypotheses. And it's really gratifying to hear, from our business development team, who I'm going to turn it over to here, to talk about the feedback that they're getting, right? So Ashok and Cliff and Saeed have been talking to enterprises about the Casper protocol. And I'd love to hear from you guys, what has been, how has the product been received in the market broadly? And what are some of the challenges that we hear from enterprise about when using blockchain technology? So Cliff, you want to kick it off and, share with us a little bit?
Yeah, happy to. Nice to be on a community call. Thanks for having me, Meta. Really great to be here. Yeah, and I think what's really exciting. Let me start off. Well, let me first introduce myself for those that I haven't met yet. I'm Cliff Sarkin. I'm the COO and head of business here at Casper Labs. And there's a few things that make this moment really exciting for us. Obviously, we're launching Mainnet and we're doing our coinless sale into a very exciting blockchain market. But the other reason why this time is so exciting is it feels like now more than ever before, enterprises, and that doesn't necessarily only mean like big businesses or Fortune 500s. Startups are enterprises, governments are enterprises, NGOs are enterprises. But it feels like now more than ever, start experimenting with it. When we first started and we're talking about building a purpose-built blockchain for enterprise 2.5, 3 years ago, there were a few enterprises that were talking about it, but that has really evolved a lot during the time we've been building. And it's kind of gratifying to know that we're launching our mainnet at a time where enterprises are really willing to talk about what blockchain can do for them, for businesses where it's applicable, where there is lots of transactions, or where they need to display publicly or semi-publicly certain information. And blockchain can potentially do that cheaper or more securely than their current centralized versions. And so and it's also gratifying a lot of the enterprises that we're talking to us, we haven't blockchain gives us the thing we're used to, the flexibility, the product features, the kinds of code that we can work in. And so exactly what we've been building is kind of perfect for this moment. So that kind of sets the stage. a little bit of my background. Sorry, I skipped that part. I'm a tech entrepreneur. I went to law school once upon a time, but building and scaling really exciting new technology companies on the business side is what I love to do. So I'm super excited to be here. Let me let Saeed introduce himself, and then we'll jump into a little more specifics about those product features that are exciting to enterprise, the kind of examples we're talking about, and then on what's happening in the Middle East, which is very, very exciting.
Thanks, Cliff. Very excited to be on my first Casper community call. Hi, everybody. My name is Saeed Aldamaki, currently head of MENA for CasperLabs. My background is I previously worked at Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, which is one of the largest global sovereign wealth funds. I had a great understanding of traditional asset classes and traditional investments and the finance system and banking system, etc. And then 4 years ago, I was introduced to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies by one of my partners in Alphabet Fund, which is a regulated crypto fund that we co-founded 4 years ago. And that's how I started my journey in the crazy and wonderful blockchain and crypto space. Learned a lot over the years, had developed a key network of contacts. And then a few months ago, I was introduced to the Casper team, and I had the opportunity to be on the advisory board. And I took that opportunity with both hands. And, you know, I did as much as I could to support the team. And last month, the team in Cliff, Mernal, and Neil came to Dubai. And we just got along really well, and I helped them, you know, meet a lot of really important people in the space, and also a lot of different government folks and different private sector corporates as well. And since then we've been working together, and luckily they kind of offered me the opportunity to head up the MENA region, and I definitely, you know, I jumped at that opportunity, and I'm super happy that I'm part of the Casper family, and really looking forward to doing great things together.
Indeed, we are so grateful to have you as part of the team, Saeed. So welcome aboard. Let's talk a little bit about the Dubai trip. So tell us a little bit more about the plans for the MENA region.
Yeah, so I mean, the main trip purpose was to attend a blockchain-focused and DeFi-focused conference, which the CasperLabs sponsored, and Mernal gave an excellent presentation. I was on a panel discussing DeFi, and I hinted towards how Casper Network can get involved with the DeFi element of things. And you know, the guys, when they were here, they just saw how, you know, how the government from the top down was very much supportive of blockchain technology in general, and was, you know, already adopting the technology in different sectors and different areas here. And in terms of regulation, in terms of crypto assets in general, there's been a lot of groundwork done over the last few years. And, you know, the central bank and the onshore regulator are very much you know, proactive with crypto assets, and very much want to regulate it to enable, you know, people in the industry to transact freely and without barriers. So when the team, you know, saw that, you know, the environment was perfect for blockchain here, and also on top of that, Dubai and the UAE is kind of like you know, a travel hub, because a lot of the travelers stop off in Dubai to go, if they're coming from the west, to go towards the east, and the other way around. So it's kind of like a tourist hub as well, commercial hub, and blockchain hub, definitely. So the guys in the team, you know, they were super excited at what they saw, and they felt that, you know, we definitely should have a presence in the region, specifically in the UAE. So you know, that's part of my remit, is to you know, to set up base here, and start off maybe with having a tech lead on the ground, and then get some engineers on the ground. The plan is to kind of start some partnerships with the strategic companies and strategic consulting companies on the ground here, and talk to the relevant corporates and government entities and find specific use cases, like 2 or 3 very focused and specific use cases where the Casper network can definitely add value to these government entities or corporates here, and then just build on that, and then gradually spread out from Dubai to Abu Dhabi to the GCC countries like Saudi, Bahrain, and then move on to the greater Middle East and North Africa eventually. So super excited that Casper is looking to have a very, very well established presence here, and I feel very, very passionate about the journey that we've started here, and I think there's great things to come in the very near future here.
But Meta, can I piggyback on some of that stuff to give the perspective of a first-time visitor to the Middle East, and to describe kind of what we saw upon getting there? Is this a good time for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Cool. So, I kind of came in along with Mernal, our CEO, and a few other members of the team, and we met a lot of people through Saeed's network, and kind of after the trip, or by the end of the trip, we kind of saw some real fundamentals happening there, and then also some fundamentals in the way Casper works, which I'll describe in a second, that make this a perfect region for us. So first of all, it became abundantly clear, if we didn't know already, that the UAE, the 7 Emirates, are its government is involved in almost everything. It's a small country, but a powerful and wealthy country. But the royal family and the royal families in each of the Emirates are really involved in almost all aspects of society, which makes it a great country. Like, all the systems work really well, like from getting to the airport to the hotel, it just felt like everything was really aligned and smooth, and everyone seemed happy, which was also a great experience. But it also means that when you do business there, that it's much easier than a completely free market where you need to go to every single business and every single government agency. It's a lot easier to transact because it's a system that's more streamlined and simple to understand. So that makes it really enticing. If we can get involved, it's easier to do business there. Number 2, like Saeed mentioned, the country is very technology forward. They're always embracing new technology. Everything from the ports to the airlines to the way people transact. It really feels like they're adopting technology ahead of a lot of countries, or at least they're on the forefront, and that includes blockchain. Right? They've been talking in the UAE and the Middle East about blockchain for a long time, but they haven't yet found the right blockchain solution for a lot of their systems. And I think part of that is what I was referring to earlier, is there hasn't yet been in the market until Casper a truly enterprise-grade, purpose-built enterprise blockchain. So when we had our meetings and we were talking about the functionality, that we have flexible payment codes and weighted key management, and you can right now code in Rust and TypeScript and soon other languages. All of this, their eyes open and said, we didn't know blockchain was at this point in its evolution yet. And we said, well, it is. Here we are. And then the last thing, which I think excited people there that we spoke to, which has more to do the way we as Casper and CasperLabs are set up, I think is going to benefit us in the region and beyond. And for those that are listening that don't know the difference between CasperLabs and Casper, allow me to kind of illustrate. So CasperLabs is a company. It's a Swiss for-profit entity that all of us on this call are employees of. And for the first 2.5 years of its existence, the main purpose of CasperLabs has been a development and a technology shop that's been building the Casper network up until the point that it's at right now, right? So most of our employees are developers, PhDs, economists. What we've built is really difficult, and I give so much credit to Ashok and Meta and all the developers on the team for the hard work they've put in for the last 2.5, 3 years. But once we launch Mainnet, the analogy that I like to give is that we gave birth to the Casper network, we as CasperLabs, and we've raised it and we've taught it how to exercise and eat well and be a good person. And the launch of Mainnet is us sending our kid off to college, and we'll be able to call her and check in with her and contribute to the network. But she's going to be out there and she's going to decide what she's going to do with her time, and other developers are going to add to the blockchain. And it's now going to be a fully decentralized network. So that's the Casper network. So what does CasperLabs become post Casper network mainnet launch? The main business for us at CasperLabs is going to be a development shop, a professional services consulting firm to help enterprises build on chain. So certainly developers are going to build applications on Casper without CasperLabs ever meeting them. There might be the Casper version of CryptoKitties or decentralized exchanges and all things that we don't have anything to do with or any involvement with. But if there are enterprises that want help building on Casper, they can come to CasperLabs and actually work with the engineers and developers that built the network. And when we explained this to the potential partners in the Middle East, their eyes lit up. They're like, wait, so you're not just coming and handing us a blockchain and saying, go have at it. You're gonna be here helping us. And we're not just gonna be here helping you. We have a country and regional managing director, and his name is Saeed. He's the guy on the call. And we're gonna build a team, and we're gonna hire local talent on the marketing side, on the customer service side, on the development side. And we're going to be with you every step of the way, because while they're blockchain curious, they still don't know how to actually build on chain. And us coming in and offering not just a state-of-the-art blockchain, but also that level of support and hands-on assistance is I think what really excited all the people that we met over there.
Hey, Cliff, I just love your analogy of, sending daughter off to college. I know you have a long way to go, but I've gone through that experience. So
yeah.
Really resonates.
I'll stop sharing my screen so you can see my picture. But my daughter, well, she's 10 months, but now she's 15 months. But I'm already dreading the day we send her to college.
Yeah, it's an emotional experience. I can vouch for it.
Yes, definitely. As someone that has raised 3 children, I can tell you raising children is an act of love and guardrails and a lot of nurturing. And that's a great analogy for what we're doing here.
I just wanted to add a couple of points to what you just said. I in my previous role at Google, I had some experience working with MENA and Dubai, and I know how efficient the systems there are and how eager they are to get onto new technology and new business opportunities. And really excited about having our connections made there. One of the things that I realized and talked about it a little bit is that when we build out a solution for, say, Dubai or one of the countries, we are going to find it pretty easy to have the adoption in other part of the MENA region. And Saeed, you can maybe correct me there. But this is an experience that I have, and it just the way the whole all the countries act in kind of synchrony and learn from each other. I think that's going to be beneficial for us as well.
For everyone, yeah, absolutely for everyone. One of the things I'd like to talk a little bit about is the technology, right? So one of the unique things about the Casper Protocol is it's extremely customizable, right? So we've built the protocol in a manner where we have the public chain, the girl that we're sending off to college, but then we can also build permissioned, private, and consortium chains without needing to make any changes to the core code base, right? It is very easy for us to configure the system and do these deployments for enterprise companies and enterprise customers that have very specific requirements. So we're in a really excellent place from a company perspective on the technology front to really design a solution that these enterprises need that is purpose built for their business, right? And the core protocol, the core virtual machine, again, provides all the tools that are needed in order to build applications and with confidence, right? And to be able to upgrade them and manage them and maintain them at the speed that business needs. And this is a really important distinction between the CasperLabs, the Casper Protocol, and other protocols out there, right? So I think we have some information about a strategic partnership here. Cliff, do you want to talk? Cliff and Ashok, you want to talk a little bit about Acdx?
Yeah, I would love to. So we're going to transition a little bit away from kind of our enterprise focus to talk about a particular partnership that we're super excited about. So Acdx is a new exchange. They're based out of China, but they serve a global audience. It's a very, very seasoned team. In fact, the founder, Andy Chung, was the former COO of OKEX, and he left a couple of years ago to start Acdx, which is, they do spot trading, but kind of their niche is in the derivatives market. And so there are really great things we can do with derivatives that'll really help our chain. One of them that we're super excited about is to do a prediction derivative for our transaction fees for our gas prices. And so we're working with them right now to create very soon upon token trading, which is scheduled for May 10th or 11th, is to include this kind of unique offering on their derivatives exchange, which will really benefit everyone on the chain.
Terrific.
Yeah,
that's
stable
great.
and predictable gas prices is another core value proposition for Casper Chain, and I think this partnership will go a long way in ensuring that.
And there's also super other exciting things we're talking to them about. In addition to this particular idea around derivatives, these guys are experts at building exchanges. So we're already beginning discussions around a potential decentralized exchange on Casper, the Casper swap. There are a lot of great and exciting things that are going to be built on Casper now that the mainnet is set to launch. And so everyone stay tuned for some really exciting things, both with Acdx and outside of our partnership with them.
Amazing. How about I give a technical update now? I think it's time. We haven't done a really robust technical update in a couple of weeks. So let's go ahead and go through the current status. So the team is executing its first weekly sprint of the 21.04 release cycle. This work, portion of this work is going to be around bug fixing and hardening features for Mainnet. We are planning on launching Mainnet March 22nd. Our custody provider requested an additional week to do production grade testing for wallets. So we're getting ready for the wallet integrations done. We just need to test in production. And the idea is that for some of the VFTA holders, we would like to generate their keys using this custody provider to just provide them an excellent onboarding experience at Genesis. So that's why we pushed the date back by 7 days. We will be doing a dry run with the Genesis validators sometime in the next 7 to 10 days. We want to do this a couple of times before we launch Mainnet with the actual Genesis block. So myself, Neil, and Ashok, we are heads down in working with the VFTA holders to get those keys generated, get the tokens all set up to be staked with delegators, right? All the tokens that have been sold in the private sales must be staked at launch, and they have to remain locked for a minimum of 90 plus 90. This has been discussed in the other community calls. So if you want details about the token and the token offering, please do go to YouTube and check out our community call. I believe it was just last week that we held that call on behalf of the association. So please do check that out. So we are preparing the Genesis block. We will make that Genesis block, the accounts in the Genesis block, available for review by all persons that are involved in the network so everybody can see what the balances are and what those public keys are. So that is the intention. So everybody has clarity and comfort around the launch. We cut tag v0.90 with the Rust node on March 2nd, and that is deployed for internal testing. We have made a couple of patches there. We are testing performance of the node internally, as well as the connectedness, right? We had some issues in Delta testnet with the networking layer with block listing. We rolled out a patch for that, and we saw very good results. We still have a lot of validators that are offline in Delta, and that's causing the slowness in Delta. So if you're like scratching your head as to why is Delta so slow, the reason for it is we've got a lot of dead validators that haven't been ejected from the protocol. Now, v0.90 has dead validator ejection built in. So when we bounce Delta, which we are planning on doing this week for Delta 11, we're going to do two things. We're going to have we're going to have an example Genesis block that is really close to what's going to happen in Mainnet. So we have procured and anonymized some of the token balances and assigned those to the top 50 uptime nodes. We went out, and you probably heard from Cosmo, that's Taylor, our level 3 support engineer. He reached out this week and acquired public keys, and those nodes will be locked. So you'll be subject to the 90+90 lock period because that is implemented in the auction contract. All bids are locked for the first 90 days. So those nodes will need to stay up. But we've also got an opportunity for another 25 or so people to bond in and to try to wrestle for seats in the auction. So that will be happening this week. The purpose of that really is to put the networking layer under some real load. We have over 630 nodes in the network. Fantastic engagement. We're so grateful to the community to be hopping on there and spinning up nodes so we can test everything. Once we do that, in parallel or very shortly after that, we will have the Genesis validators basically bounce up their production equipment with the latest code and start doing some production readiness testing. So we can ensure that they can monitor and manage the node. If I have my way, they will also test an upgrade, and they will actually also test social consensus. And social consensus is what the network will go through in the event of a critical failure. So again, our philosophy at Casper has always been, at CasperLabs rather, to provide the core capabilities at the protocol level so that contract authors, validators, and the community can use this technology to build what they need to build and do what they need to do, right? That's really our philosophy. And similarly with social consensus, we're providing the tools for the community to help the protocol grow and evolve and reach social consensus in the unlikely event of a critical consensus failure, right? So we want to provide the validators the tools and train them on this tooling, on how to use the tools in the event they ever need to recover from a critical failure. So really important work that needs to be done over the next several weeks. Now, for the first 60 days post-launch, everything will be locked up. There will be no liquidity whatsoever. So the blockchain will, for all intents and purposes, be running with empty blocks. We think this is a very good thing, and it'll give validators a chance to get really comfortable with the operation of the protocol before the floodgates open up post-sale. Let's talk a little bit about the technical pieces. So let me scroll this, my other screen as well. So current focus, performance, hardening, and production engineering work. Production engineering is the discipline of putting the system under load until it breaks in specific test environments, and then updating your monitoring, logging, and management of the system so that you can identify failures in advance of them happening. Highway, we're looking at the exact around success meter constants to the config. So what this means is, what we learned is that 80% of rounds need to be successful in order for the protocol to speed up. And because we don't have dead validator ejection, we're going to fine tune this and put this configuration option into the chain spec.configuration outside of the code. So presently it's hard coded in the code to be 80%. We're going to rip that out and we're going to put it into chain spec configuration so the network can be configured and managed by the validator set moving forward. In the node Rust, removing the AR supervisor from the joiner. This is a pretty significant refactor. This is likely not going to be in mainnet. This is going to be the post mainnet release that will happen sometime around the end of April. We're also building another prototype joiner for fast synchronization. We will be deploying a fast synchronization and likely state pruning as part of our first release. Again, this is to make the node very efficient and to operate. Efficiency and sustainability is really important to us from an engineering perspective. Test and SRE, we're focused on supporting testnet, and we're validating our DevNet, testnet, and mainnet deployment processes. In mainnet, we will not be running a bonded node. So the mainnet trusted node IP addresses, for those of you that are familiar, will only be the community validators, right? It will not include a Casper node as the bootstrap. Again, this is an important thing of sending our baby girl off to college, right? So we are not going to be there. We'll be there watching carefully, and we'll be supporting their coordination activities, but we will not be running a bonded node in the network. We will be running a bonded node in the testnet. So we'll be deprovisioning Delta 11. That will be mark the end of the Delta testnet, incentivized testnet. And we will be spinning up the official Zug testnet that will exist in perpetuity alongside mainnet. And the dev DAO will play a big role in this. They will have control over the faucet, and they will be managing basically an incentive program for people to spin up nodes in the network. So contact the dev DAO, that's devxdao.com, if you're interested in participating in testnet. We're working on our NCTL and testnet support and extensions. This is how you can do localized testing and running a localized simulated blockchain. On the ecosystem front, we are refactoring our JS SDK. We had to build that SDK out very quickly to support our custody provider, but now we know that we need to refactor it and make it clean. That's happening in the Casper-ecosystem repository. It's not happening in the CasperLabs system repository, rather, because that is something that we are building out for the broader ecosystem. We're enhancing the signer, and we're improving the DSL. We recognize that it's a little hard to build contracts in Casper, so there's going to be a really big focus on the Casper DSL in the coming months. And of course, more slides and recordings to help developers on board onto the protocol and really understand how to build contracts correctly. On economics, we're focused a lot on the seigniorage rate. This is what Alexander is building out right now. We're taking a look at the amount of bonded stake we'll have at mainnet, and Alex is really focused on figuring out what the seigniorage is going to look like. Alex, can you give any hints as to the range for seigniorage? People have a lot of questions around the inflation rate and what it's going to look like for the first year.
The final number, depends in large part on, what we decide we believe, the, average, delegation is going to be in the system, right? So, I mean, looking around at other networks that allow delegation, it seems that we should expect this number be, pretty high, right? So maybe like, 80 to 90% of all tokens out there essentially are going to be, delegated at any given time. So in practice, in our projections, especially given the yields that we're targeting for validators, this means that, total supply growth in the system probably is going to be around like 5 to 6% a year.
Okay, that sounds about right. And we're not using the term yield here, but really it's, just what kind of rewards they can expect, right, based on their stake. So we're expecting that validators will want about a 15 to 20% reward rate for their stake. And with 80% of the token staked, right, that's a very bullish outlook. 5 to 7% sounds about right. 5 to 6% sounds about right. So thank you for that. That'll help give folks some idea. But again, do look for an official announcement. You will be hearing an official announcement from us about all of these matters. We appreciate the community's flexibility and allowing us to run these analyses so we can really get everything right. We want to make sure that we are very conscientious and doing the necessary analysis before we're not going to do things willy-nilly, for lack of a better term. So moving forward, let's talk a little bit about auction contract runtime. So in the contract runtime, this is the VM. So we are making some enhancements of persist seniorage recipients directly in the TRI. This is about around the auction contract state. We're trying to reduce the footprint of the auction contract state itself. So we're going to store this information directly in the TRI store. Delete nodes in Merkle TRI. This is, again, state pruning. Right now, the Merkle TRI does do a deep copy whenever there's a change to Merkle TRI. This makes it not very efficient, right? And we've had to tell validators that we're going to be a disk hog until we get state pruning in place. And then pad representation of error ID keys for length consistency. I think this is an internal, just an internal consistency and making sure that everything is really deterministic. So launch, as I talked about, we're beginning the process of creating the Genesis block. We've got the Genesis validator set and staking providers put together, which we will offer to our VFTA holders. And we're creating the starting balances. And participants will have the opportunity to review and provide us feedback. And the trial run, Delta, this is more like Delta testnet. Delta 11 is planned in the next couple of days, and the release candidate has been cut, and we are just patching it. So we'll probably do the trial run closer to March 15th instead of March 9th. So we need a few more days to get everything buttoned up with respect to Genesis validators. They're still spinning up nodes and provisioning their production hardware. So with that, should we consider going to community questions? Anyone have anything to share?
Yes, so one question the community had was, how important is MENA to Casper and crypto as a whole? So this one's for you, Saeed or Cliff.
Cliff, you're on mute.
You're on mute. Cliff, you're on mute.
I was testing everyone's lip reading ability. Yeah, I can start, Saeed, and then you can complete.
Sure.
The short answer is it's very important for all the reasons we mentioned, just how technology forward they are, how much they're embracing blockchain, and how much they seem to love our offering and our structure. When we think about our go-to-market and our global expansion, we are a fully decentralized global enterprise, both the network and CasperLabs. We've been decentralized from the start, which meant dealing with the pandemic actually wasn't a big hiccup for us. We've been used to all working from wherever we are from the beginning, and the whole globe is important. There is no region that's not important. That said, when we think about going to market around the world, it would be foolish for us to try to be in every country, in every region, on the ground, with a staff from day one. We think that that's a recipe setting us up for failure. Just, we've all heard the expression like growing too fast. If we try to hire 187 country managers in 1 month, it's bound to lead to failure. And so what we've done as CasperLabs, while the Casper network is of course going to be global, validators can join the network from wherever they are in the world, and we certainly might see enterprises that we work with from other regions. What we've done for the near term, the next year, year and a half or so, is identified 4 main regions where we're really going to be focused and have boots on the ground, and that is the West, which we kind of group together North America and Europe as kind of one region, the West as one, China 2, and this isn't in order of importance, this is just listing them. The West 1, China 2, South Korea 3, and the Middle East, North Africa region 4. And these will be the regions where we actually have regional managers. In addition to Saeed in MENA, we do have a country managing director in China, and soon one in Korea. And then a lot of us are in either Europe or North America. And so all of those, I think, have a particular importance because we are going to have local folks on the ground. But let me stress that this doesn't mean that other regions aren't important. Africa is really important. South Asia, India, and the rest of the South Asian continent is really important. Russia is important. But what we'll do is set up the structures to make sure that in those first 4 regions, we learn a lot of lessons about how to grow. And then soon after we've done that, we'll grow to those other regions.
Maybe I'll just add to that. I mean, previous to joining Casper Labs, to me, I think blockchain adoption in the Middle East and North Africa is of extreme importance personally. Even more so in the UAE. I really want to see the UAE, adopt the technology to the fullest. And I think that, as most of the economies in the Middle East and North Africa are developing economies, in order for them to kind of accelerate the growth of the economy and kind of compete with all the other major global economies, I think technology is the biggest enabler. And I believe that, blockchain technology in general is definitely a very, very big enabler in terms of specifically financial services and other different sectors where blockchain technology is very useful for. But I think at Casper Labs, I'm really happy that, we have, considered the MENA region as an important region. It's a very extremely fast growing region. And I think there's plenty of opportunities here. And with the level of enterprises here, I think if most of them adopt Casper Network, then that level of usage on Casper Network will be high, and subsequently that will not just benefit Casper Labs as a company, but that will also benefit Casper token holders as well in the long run. So I think it's super important, and I'm happy to see that we are making great efforts and strides in the region.
Couldn't agree more. I think this is just fantastic. And I applaud, the MENA countries for adopting blockchain technology and recognizing the importance both for their security as a nation, as well as for their consumers and their constituents as well. So man, I wish the US would follow suit. We are just we are not on the ball. That's all I'm going to say about that. Ashley, do you have the next question on that note? We'll move on.
Yes. So thank you, Saeed and Cliff. The rest of the questions that I have are more technical.
Okay.
Is Casper interoperable with EVM chains or Cosmo-based chains?
Okay, so I can definitely answer that question. So with respects to EVM type chains and Cosmos type chains, we chose to interop at one point only, which is at the key level. So we felt that the user interaction was really important. So we do support Ethereum keys, SecP256K1 keys natively within the Casper blockchain. And we also have the capability of really adding any other type of encryption scheme, right? The global state or the account notion within the Casper VM doesn't really care about what type of key it is. You can handle all of that on the client end, which is a really, very interesting, architectural decision. So it enables, say, for example, if you want to do, if you have a user application or an application that is currently working with Ethereum or some other blockchain, and you are managing user accounts, you don't need to create separate keys just for Casper. We can use those existing keys and you just handle it on your end, on the client side, in terms of how you sign transactions, right? So the Casper client doesn't care. The Casper client presently cares. It would need to be enhanced to support your new encryption scheme. But the global state, the blockchain and the VM doesn't care. Also, with respects to smart contracts, we do not support running an EVM in our instance for a myriad of reasons, right? We want all contracts in the global state to be able to interop with each other. So we do not run an EVM instance within the Casper protocol. However, it is possible to transpile your Solidity contracts over to the Rust Casper DSL. Now, the Caspiler is still just a prototype. We are looking over the next several months to release a full production version. We will also be open sourcing the Transpiler as part of our transition to decentralization. So the Caspiler will be available to the community, so the community can investigate and look at the code base and understand how the code is being transpiled. We felt it was important to take this route because then with a pure Rust contract, now you can take all the benefits of our Rust ecosystem, right? And we had questions in here about what can Casper contract developers do to make sure their contracts are really robust. Well, the Casper Cargo Casper SDK provides a Casper runtime environment that enables you to create unit tests that are run directly within the IDE. So you can do really interesting things like assertions and have a full unit test integration suite for your contracts, including setting up your starting blockchain state, right? So you can actually define what is the starting state of your contract and then run a bunch of tests against that starting state. And this is super important when it comes to building a robust contract. You don't need a full node to test your contract. Of course, before you deploy to production, we always recommend that you run your contract in a test net and see how your application performs against a real blockchain, right? Because there is, potential delays that may happen or finality signatures that you need. So you do need a response back from the validating nodes, but you don't really need to do this from the very beginning as you're developing your contract. So I hope I covered a few questions in that bit, Ashley.
Just one more point to add there, Meda. I'm already getting interest from community members to build Casper transpiler. So there is already interest from community to build on that.
Fantastic, great, love it.
So another question is, how can developers build excellent contracts that are secure?
Broke up there, so it's about them building excellent contracts, correct?
Yes.
I wonder, is my connection unstable?
Yeah, I think you're unstable, Meda. Your Wi-Fi is unstable.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
The question
can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep, now it's good, Meta.
Okay, go ahead.
The question was, how can developers build excellent contracts that are secure? Can you hear me?
Correct. So again, the test harness, right, plays a role here. Yes, I can hear you. The test harness plays a big role here, right? So you can actually step through your contract and see how it is running within the global state. You can run assertions and observe what the contract is doing at the global state level in a local IDE.
And we also provide NCTL, Meda, where you can run up, spin up a local network to test out things, and then the test net. So there are levels.
Correct.
You can use to kind of harden your contract.
Correct. That's right. But I think the key is being able to peek into what's happening in the global state, right? Being able to peek into the internal variables of your contract. This is where you can identify these kinds of vulnerabilities. Next question, Ashley. I'm trying to get through as many questions as we can here. Sorry.
How many Casper tokens does one need to become a validator?
Yes, so this is an interesting question. So the way Casper is permissionless is we have this thing called the auction contract. And the auction contract takes in a specification of the number of validator slots that the protocol will support. This is part of the chain specification. It can be changed through social consensus and upgrades. And what happens is then for a given number of validator slots, the contract will select the top N number of slots within the auction based on total stake. Now, this is a combination of delegated stake and validator stake. So you could purchase your validator stake, and then if you're really a big crypto influencer, you could have all kinds of people that trust you and have faith in your ability to operate a node, delegate to you, and you can win a slot in the auction contract. We felt this was a really important way for token holders to have a seat at the table in selecting and having a role in who the validator set is. Token holders can actually actively fight whale formation and actually vote out certain validators if they feel they're not providing excellent service. And they can do this by custodying their own keys and participating directly in the auction. So the answer is, I don't know. It really depends on what the community is going to do. Next question.
And then our final question, are we going to be using an easy wallet like Metamask?
There are plans to build a MetaMask type plugin for CSPR. And the community and the Dev DAO has a grant for this, I believe. I think Wolf is on the call and he could probably keep me honest here, but I'm quite certain that there is already a grant in place for this. So if you're interested in building a MetaMask type plugin, reach out to the Dev DAO at DevX DAO and sign up to be an associate, and you can participate in building that out. We're also working on a ledger integration. The ledger integration will be a little ways away, but expect a ledger integration for the Clarity Block Explorer. As you know, Clarity does support the creation of keys, and we are planning to have a ledger integration for this application. There's a couple other questions around how inflation will work. So Casper will have, the Casper Public Network will have inflation, and it will be used to reward validators for participating in consensus. So they'll need to actually actively participate in finalizing transactions in order to receive their rewards. What is the maximum minimum token for delegation? As far as I know, there is no cap. We are planning and encouraging there to be an even distribution of tokens so that there isn't a lot of stake aggregated on any single physical instance. That way, if a physical instance experiences a critical failure, it doesn't adversely harm consensus. But this is not yet implemented. We plan on implementing this in a future release. Cliff, were you going to say something?
No, I just think on the previous question about inflation, we get a lot of questions about this in Telegram about the total supply versus inflation. And I just want to be very clear that the 10 billion tokens that are, minted at Genesis, are the total, initial supply, and that the only, and that not all of them are going to be circulating at launch. That we have a graph on that's available to everyone to see on our landing page at CoinList that shows the total supply that's circulating in the market over time and as tokens become unlocked. So it's not all 10 billion in supply right away, and that the only increase to that 10 billion number is through seniorage or through staking rewards to validators. That we're not going to create any other tokens, that they will never be created out of thin air, that it's the 10 billion plus validator rewards over time, and that's it for our supply.
That's exactly right. Yep. I also saw a question about how we are different than Ethereum, right? So I think the biggest way to discuss our differences between Ethereum is that we support on-chain contract and code governance, right? We provide on-chain tools to govern contracts. And what does this mean? This means you can choose to upgrade your contract if you wish. You can wrap the authority of upgrading these contracts around specific account holders through this weighted accounts and thresholds mechanism. And you can also govern your keys, right? And who has access to your keys. So there's interesting things you can do around social key recovery, which right now actually shares private keys, and most of it's done off chain on layer 2. With our protocol, you can actually do it on chain, right? And these are functions and features that are available within the virtual machine itself, as well as a Web 2 developer experience where you can build contracts and run them within an integrated development environment known as an IDE, which is the way software has been built for over 20, since the beginning, since over 20, 30 years. If you're going to write a C++ application, you open up a C++ compiler like Visual Studio, and it's expected that you can run the application within that IDE. And somewhere along the way with blockchain, we just stopped doing that, and we built all these web interfaces that simulate nodes behind the screen. But that really isn't the way software is built. Any other questions? All right. Thank you so much. And have a great day, and catch us on YouTube. We have lots of other live streams and recordings available there, and Telegram and Discord. Thanks everyone for dialing in. Cheers.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.
Great to be here.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.